Hi everyone, this is Helloangel.design. Today we are making a new romper for beautiful kids. It has a collar and it has a snap closure at the back and also has a snap closure at the leg hole. It's a step-by-step tutorial. I will take you step by step on how you can achieve this beautiful romper. On my YouTube, I have uploaded how you can make similar romper like this one. But on that video, instead of the snap closure to be at the back, the snap closure was at the front of the romper. So when you go and download the free pattern paper, what you are going to do, you will put the front pattern paper on fold, and the back you're going to cut 2 pieces. Make sure to always add your seam allowance if there is no seam allowance on the pattern paper. And please, those of you that are downloading my free pattern paper, please just say thank you to the person that take the time to make the pattern paper and give it out for free. If someone take time to make pattern paper and give it to you for free, at least when you write your email or your contact details, just write thank you to that person, so that thank you can always motivate that person to keep giving out free pattern paper. Please make sure you do that. So let's jump right to the tutorial. I have cut out my fabric. This is how it is. I am using this beautiful doll fabric. You can use any fabric of your choice as long as it's a cotton, because it's for little babies. So I have cut out my collar. My collar this time is different. My collar is straight, it's not curved at the bottom. So you can see this one that I make is curved at the bottom right here, but this collar is not curved at the bottom. If you don't know how to make a collar, I'll put the link on my description box below so that you can go and watch that video. In that video, I have shown how to make A-line dress with Peter Pan collar. How you can use your A-line pattern paper to make collar. So make sure to also watch that video so that you can know how to make your own collar. So I have cut out my collar and the lining, and this is the lining of the back fabric. You can see that I cut in 2 pieces, and this is the front of my made fabric. I want to mention this: if you are cutting out your front made fabric, what you are going to do when you print out your pattern paper, if the pattern paper have seam allowance for the buttonhole or for the snap, make sure to remove that seam allowance, and then you can place your pattern paper on your fabric and cut it on fold. And this is my lining, because if you don't remove that seam allowance and you place your pattern paper on your fabric and cut it on fold, there will be excess at the front of the neckline. Then the front neckline will be too wide for the child. So make sure that you remove the seam allowance, place your pattern paper on your fabric, make sure it's on fold, and cut it out. If you don't want your front neckline to have snap closure, because for today we are making the front with no snap closure. So I just want to mention that for you to know. And this is the back made fabric. I also cut out 2 pieces, and I cut out my bias binding, and this is my elastic. I will tell you the measurement once we start putting the elastic around the leg hole. And this is my romper bottom. So let's put the romper together. First thing that you're going to do, you open your made fabric. This is my made fabric, and I will take the back of the fabric. I'll make sure that both front fabric are facing each other. I'm going to put the both shoulder seam of the fabric together. Take it to your sewing machine, stitch it with your seam allowance. This pattern paper that I have right here, my seam allowance is 1/2 inch. So I am going to be stitching with 1/2 inch seam allowance, or 1.3 centimeter. Once you have done that, you also take your lining, make sure that both front fabric are facing each other, pin the shoulder seam, go ahead and stitch it with your seam allowance. And you also take your collar. So this is my collar, this is the front. So I'll put the lining on top of it like this. What I'm going to do, I will take it to my sewing machine, I will stitch it all the way down, stitch at the bottom, and then stitch it all the way down. And you also take the second pieces, you repeat the same process, stitch it all the way down, all around the bottom, and then stitch it all the way down again. Once you have done that, take your scissors, trim a little bit out from the seam allowance, and snip around the curved edge. Once you have snipped around the curved edge, turn it inside out, take it to an ironing board, and give it a nice good press. I have stitched the shoulder seam of my top dress together, and I've also stitched the collar. You can see how beautiful that is. Make sure to take it to an ironing board and give it a nice good press. When you iron your dress, it looks really beautiful than just keep making without not ironing your dress. The next thing that we have to do before we stitch our collar at the neckline of this romper that we are making, for the center back, we are going to take our seam allowance. So what you are going to do, you place your measuring tape like this. From the center back, I'm going to take half an inch or 1.3 centimeter. So this half an inch or 1.3 centimeter is where I'm going to just stitch it all the way down. That is my seam allowance. Then I will come back again. I will place my measuring tape. I'm going to measure down 2 centimeter. That is for my snap closure. And I will also repeat the same process here. And I will measure down half an inch or 1.3 centimeter for stitching the center back all the way down. And I will come back again, and then I will measure 2 centimeter. That is my snap closure. The next thing that you have to do, this is my front fabric. You put it into two like this, and you take your hand, just give it a press to have center of the front fabric. Then you open it, and this is it right here. So what you are going to do, you are going to stitch your collar. You pick one collar, you place it like this, and then you can pin it all the way down. And you pick the second collar, place it like this, pin it all the way down. Once you have done pinning, what you are going to do, take it to your sewing machine and top stitch. When you are stitching, make sure it's not up to your seam allowance. So I will take mine to my sewing machine right now and stitch it all together before I will add my lining and stitch it all over again. I have stitched the collar together. This is how it is right now. The next thing that we have to do, we are going to place our lining on top of it and top stitch. So you place your lining on top of it like this. You are going to stitch around the neckline. Take it to your sewing machine. Go ahead and stitch around the neckline. Once you have done stitching, take your scissors, trim a little bit out from the seam allowance, and snip around the neckline. And once you have done that, we are going to understitch the neckline. First thing, let's go ahead and stitch the neckline together, and I will show you how to understitch the neckline. I have stitched around the neckline. This is how it is, and I take my scissors, I just snip around the neckline. You can see how that is. The next thing that we have to do, we are going to push the seam allowance towards the lining and top stitch. To do that, you pick your lining like this. This is the seam allowance, and I will push it towards the lining, and I will turn my fabric, and I'm going to be stitching on the lining, not on the made fabric. You're going to be stitching on the lining. You stitch it all the way around to the other end of the center back. Once you have done that, you use the opportunity to pin the both armhole of your top dress together, pin the center back together, top stitch with your seam allowance. So go ahead and stitch them together. Once you have done that, turn your top dress inside out, take it to an ironing board, give it a nice good press. I have top stitched the both armhole and I've also stitched the center back. This is how it looks. Make sure to take it to an ironing board and give it a nice good press. Remember to always snip around the curved edge so that when you turn it inside out and iron your dress, it looks very beautiful. The next thing that we have to do, we are going to stitch the side seam of the top dress together. Put them together like this. Make fabric facing each other, lining facing each other. You stitch it with your seam allowance. Take the other side seam, put them together. Make fabric facing each other, lining facing each other. You top stitch with your seam allowance. Once you have done that, you take your bottom of the romper. So this is the bottom of the romper. So what we are going to do, we are going to take a measurement at the bottom of the romper. So you place your measuring tape like this from the very top of the romper. I'm going to measure down 8 centimeters. If you're using inches, you can measure 3 inches or 3.25 inch. So this is my 8 centimeter right here. Once you mark that, then I will turn my fabric like this. I'm going to take my scissors and cut it to that 8 centimeter. I have cut it to that 8 centimeter. This is how it is. The next thing that you have to do, you cut a piece of fabric. My fabric is folded into 2, so from here to here is 3 centimeters. When you open it, if you're going to cut your fabric, you're going to cut 6 centimeters. So what you are going to do, you place your fabric like this. Make sure to open it when you place your fabric, and when you're also placing your piece of fabric, you're placing it at the front of your fabric, not at the back. Place it like this and pin it all around. I have pinned it all around. The next thing that you have to do, take it to your sewing machine. You go ahead and top stitch. When I'm stitching, I will show you how I top stitch on my sewing machine, because when I'm stitching, I'm not going to be stitching from the front. I'll usually turn my fabric like this. I will start stitching from the back. So let's go and stitch that together. I have stitched the side seam of my top dress together. This is how it is. Take it to an ironing board. Make sure you give it a nice good press. This is how the front top dress of the romper look. This is the bottom that I've also stitched. You can see I take it to my ironing board. I just give it a nice good press, and this is how it is inside. Make sure when you top stitch, you snip it very close to your stitches so that when you press it, it lies very perfectly. And for my placket, from here to here is 1 centimeter. I fold it inside and I iron it all the way down. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to place it like this to cover the raw edges of my romper. So I will place it like this, and what you are going to do, you start pinning all the way around to the end of the placket. Just go ahead and pin it all the way down. Once you have done pinning, take it to your sewing machine and top stitch it all the way to this point. Then you can cut out the excess of the fabric. Once you have stitched that together, the next thing that you have to do, you take the bottom of the romper. So you are going to put the both sides seam together. Take it to your sewing machine, stitch the side seam with your seam allowance, and you come down to this other side because the back romper is always bigger than the front romper. And you also go ahead and top stitch. Once you have stitched the both sides seam together, take it to your overlocker, overlock the raw edges, or use zigzag to overlock the raw edges. Once you have done that, use that opportunity to stitch a gather stitch thread at the top edge of your bottom romper. I have stitched my placket together. This is how it is once you have done stitching that together. And I've also stitched a gather stitch thread at the top edge of the bottom romper. So what I'm going to do, This is my left side. I'm going to fold it inside, so I will just fold it inside like this. You can either choose the right side or the left side, but I usually prefer to fold it inside on the left side. So I will fold it inside and secure that with a pin. So this is how it is right now. Once I am done with that, I will take my top dress. So I will place my front like this. Both front fabric are facing each other, and this is the front bottom romper. I will secure that with a pin. I have pinned the top dress and the romper together, so I will turn my fabric. This will be the center back of the romper. I will pick the center back. Make sure you open the seam, and I will pick this side that I fold inside the placket. I will pick it like this, and I will secure that with a pin. Make sure that the edge of this placket and the edge of your center back are matched. Do not move it towards the lining. Make sure they are matched, and then you secure that with a pin. Once you have secured that with a pin, you come to this other side, the center back and also the placket. Do not fold this side inside. Leave it the way it is like this. Do not fold it inside. You see the way we fold this one inside. Do not fold the other side of the placket inside. Just leave it the way it is, and open your top dress. Make sure you open the seam apart. Pick it like this and put them together. Make sure that the both are matched, and secure that with a pin. Once you have done that, this is how it will look. Once you have secured the placket in place, what you are going to do, this is the side seam of my top dress, and you pick your romper. This is the side seam, and then you are going to secure the both side seam together. Make sure they are matched. Pin that in place. Come to this other side. This is the side seam of my romper and the side seam of my top dress. Secure that with a pin. Make sure that they are matched. Once you have secured that with a pin, the next thing that you have to do, you are going to start gathering your romper around the waistline of your top dress. So go ahead and gather your romper. Once you have done that, pin them all around, and then take it to your sewing machine and top stitch. I have top stitched the romper together. This is how it is. This is the back of the romper, and this is the front. This is how it looks once you have done that. And I take it to my overlocker. I overlock all the raw edges to make it look neat. You can also use zigzag to overlock the raw edges. The next thing that you have to do, you're going to fold your seam allowance inside to cover the raw edges of the waistline. Depends on the seam allowance that you use to stitch them together. You also go ahead and fold your lining seam allowance inside. The same way, my seam allowance that I use to stitch it together is 1.3 centimeter or half an inch. So I also fold it inside 1.3 centimeter or half an inch. So I will go ahead and start pinning around the waistline. Once I am done pinning, I will take it to my sewing machine and top stitch it all around. When I'm going to stitch it together, I'm not going to start stitching from inside the romper. I will place my romper on my sewing machine. I will start stitching from the waistline, that is the front of the romper. Once you have done with that, the next thing that we have to do, we are going to use our bias binding to stitch the leg hole. The width of my bias binding is 3 centimeter. If you're using inches, measure 1.25 inch. Place it like this. That is at the front of your romper. You're going to stitch it all the way down, and you also repeat the same process on this other side of the leg hole. So go ahead and stitch them together. Once you have done that, I will show you how mine look. I have used my bias binding to bind the leg hole. This is how it is once you have done that. The next thing that we have to do, we are going to insert our elastic. So before you do that, make sure that to take a measurement of your elastic. I will place my measuring tape like this. I'm going to measure all the way down. My elastic is 35 centimeter. If you're using inches, measure 30.75 inch. When you cut your elastic, make sure you're going to cut 2 pieces and the both will be on the same length. So I have placed my pin already. So this hole inside here, I will just start passing my elastic through gradually and come out on the other side. Before it come out on the other side, make sure to use a pin to secure it on this side so that it doesn't go all the way around. Then you have to start all over again. So go ahead and do that, and I will show you the finished look once I am done passing my elastic through. I have passed my elastic through. This is how it is. The next thing that you have to do, take it to your sewing machine. You go ahead and secure this elastic together. Make sure you secure it properly. I have top stitched my elastic together. This is how it is. The next thing that we have to do, we are going to cut a piece of fabric to cover this place right here. So what you are going to do, before you cut your fabric out, make sure you take the measurement from here to here. Take the measurement, any measurement that you have on your romper. Make sure to add seam allowance on both sides so that you can be able to use it to cover the raw edges and top stitch. That is what I have here. So I have my seam allowance and I have cut it out. I'll place my measuring tape like this. Mine is 11.5 centimeter, and for the width of my fabric, so I'll place my measuring tape like this, is 3.5 centimeter. When you're taking this measurement, make sure that you fold your fabric into 2, because my fabric is folded into 2. So what I'm going to do, I will turn my fabric and I will place it like this. You can see the excess fabric on this side, excess fabric on the other side, because I add seam allowance. Remember to add seam allowance when you are cutting yours out. So I will pin it in place just the way I'm pinning it right now. I have pinned it together. I will take it to my sewing machine and give it a top stitch. So when I'm stitching, it's not up to 1 centimeter. And I will turn to the other side. I will repeat the same process. Open my placket and I will place it together like this, pin it in place, take it to my sewing machine and top stitch. When I'm stitching, it's not up to 1 centimeter. So go ahead and stitch that together. I have given it a top stitch. This is how it is. I take it to my ironing board. I just fold the seam allowance inside from the bottom. I fold 1 centimeter inside all around. So what you are going to do, once you fold it inside, make sure you push it inside properly and you pick this other side, fold it on top of it, and then you just go ahead and start pinning your placket to cover the raw edges of your romper. Make sure you push all the seam allowance inside properly and start pinning them together. I have pinned it together. This is how it is. You can see how it looks right now. The next thing that you have to do, take it to your sewing machine. Go ahead and top stitch it all the way down, across at the bottom and down. You come down to this other side, stitch it all the way down, across like this, at the bottom and then across. Once you have done that, the next thing for you to do is to stitch your snap. You can see how it fits perfectly. You just go ahead and stitch your snap, and then you also stitch your snap or buttonhole at the center back. I will show you the final look of my romper. I have stitched the placket in place. This is how it is. Once you have stitched your placket, you can see how that is. All you have to do, put them together like this and see if they are both equal. You can see that they are both equal. So I'm just using a pin to secure them together. Later on, I will install my snap, and at the center back the same thing. Later on I will install my snap at the center back. This is how it is. It's very, very beautiful and easy tutorial to make. You can see how this is. They are both the same fabric. This is how I will also install my snap. I will have 4 snap at the center back and 2 snap on this other side of the romper. Thank you all so much for watching our video. Please subscribe. Subscription is free. Thumbs up on our video. Thumbs up is also free. Comment down below if you have any question to ask. I will do my best to respond to you. Remember, this video that you're watching today, the pattern paper is on our previous video. It's more than like a year ago, something like that. You can go and download the pattern paper. I have already explained how you can place your front pattern paper on your fabric and cut it out. Thank you all so much for staying with us. Thank you all so much for your like, for your comment, and we appreciate you so much. We love you. If you're a new subscriber, before you exit the video, remember to subscribe. Subscription is free. And have a beautiful day. Bye.